I was returning from the notary's office in a good mood. I was imagining how I would tell my daughter and my son-in-law about my brother's inheritance. A villa by the sea and 2 apartments that would change our lives. But as I approached the house, I heard their voices through the open window. Their words paralyzed me with horror. Before we continue, please subscribe to William's Revenge Stories, and let us know in the comments where you're listening from. The phone rang while I was reviewing old files in my office. Fridays were usually quiet mornings, but the unknown number on the screen made me hesitate. Mr. Brooks. I am Amber Foster, a notary public. I need you to come to my office immediately regarding your brother James's estate. Can you be here in an hour? Her voice had that urgency that lawyers always have. I felt a knot in my throat. James? Yes, I can be there. What happened? We will discuss everything in person. My office is downtown, on Spring Street. I'll text you the address. The call ended before I could ask more questions. James. We hadn't spoken in almost 3 years. Ever since he moved to Florida for some real estate deal, our childhood seemed like another life. 2 brothers running through the streets in the summer, building forts, sharing secrets. Then our careers separated us. His marriage failed. Mine lasted exactly 11 years, and the distance just became easier than the effort. I grabbed my keys and headed to the car. Traffic was clogging the 110 freeway as I merged downtown, giving me too much time to think. James was 59, and in good health, as far as I knew. A heart attack? An accident? The possibilities ran through my prosecutor's mind, analyzing and discarding each scenario. Amber Foster's office was a modest suite in an old building. She was younger than I expected, maybe 36, with sharp eyes and a firm handshake. The room smelled like copier toner and furniture polish. Mr. Brooks, thank you for coming so soon. Please, sit down. I sank into the leather chair opposite her desk. She opened a manila folder, and I saw my brother's name typed on the first page. Your brother passed away last week. It was a sudden heart attack. I am very sorry. Last week, while I was watching baseball and complaining about the water bill, James was dying alone in some Florida apartment. Guilt crushed my ribs. I didn't know. No one called me. He had very few contacts listed, but his will was very specific. Amber's fingers ran down the page. To my brother Thaddeus Brooks, I leave my entire estate, the property on Ocean View Drive, Malibu, valued at $3.1 million, and 2 condominiums in Santa Monica, with a combined value of $1.1 million. At first, I didn't understand the numbers. I took off my reading glasses and slowly cleaned them on my shirt, buying time while my brain processed the information. I don't understand. James and I have barely spoken these last few years. Are you sure there isn't a mistake? No mistake, Mr. Brooks. He was very specific. He added a note. For the brother who always did the right thing. I felt a lump in my throat. For the brother who always did the right thing, James remembered. Despite the silence and the distance, he remembered who I had tried to be. Amber slid some papers across the desk. I need your signature here and here. We will start the transfer process immediately. The tax implications will require a consultation with your accountant. But legally, the properties are yours. My hand trembled a little as I signed. I was 67 years old, retired for 2 years on a prosecutor's pension, and suddenly, I owned property worth over $4 million. The pen felt too light, the moment too surreal. When can I access the properties? Within 2 weeks, once the succession process is finalized. The Malibu house is furnished and managed by a property company. The Santa Monica apartments are currently rented, generating monthly income. The words sounded strange to me. I had spent decades putting criminals in jail, living modestly, doing the work because it was important. Money had never been the priority. But now, sitting in this impersonal office, with documents representing more wealth than I had earned in my entire career, I felt something dangerous growing inside me. Hope. I thanked Amber, shook her hand again, and walked back to my car in a daze. The afternoon sun warmed my face as I pulled onto the street. Megan would be thrilled. My daughter and her husband, Arnold, had been living with me for 8 months. Their finances were a mess, from what they vaguely described as bad investments. I had been supporting them, watching my retirement savings disappear, never complaining, because that's what parents do. But now, everything would change. I could help them properly. Maybe even give them one of the Santa Monica apartments. Family taking care of family. As it should be. I rehearsed the words as I drove. Keep it simple. Don't overdo it. James left me some assets. We're going to be okay. The familiar streets of Pasadena appeared, tree-lined and quiet. I turned onto my street and saw my house up ahead, with its faded blue shutters and neglected lawn. My modest, crumbling shelter was about to become a launch pad for something better. I stopped in front of the house and turned off the engine, already smiling. I parked on the street instead of pulling into the driveway. It was an instinct I couldn't explain. The living room window was open, unusual for midday, when we usually kept the house closed against the heat. Tense. Urgent voices carried out. Megan and Arnold. My hand froze on the car door. Something in their tone stopped me from calling out, from announcing my arrival. Instead, I found myself moving silently toward the window, crouching behind the overgrown azalea bushes that badly needed pruning. The branches scratched my arms, but I held still, listening. If Dad finds out about our debts, he'll kick us out. We can't let that happen. Arnold, we can't. Megan's voice had that whining tone I'd heard too often lately. But the words themselves? Debts? What debts? He won't find out. We stick to the plan. Arnold's response was flat, emotionless. Tomorrow, you take him to that psychiatrist I told you about. The guy will write whatever we need for $1,500. My stomach tightened. A psychiatrist? I gripped my car keys so hard the metal dug into my palm. What if he refuses to go? Dad is so stubborn. He'll ask questions. Then we'll put something in his coffee. A sedative. Easy. Arnold's voice had no hesitation, no shame. Once he's in the nursing home, nobody listens to old people. His house, his assets, everything under guardianship. The words hit like physical blows. Nursing home, guardianship, my own daughter and her husband, plotting to drug me, to declare me incompetent, to steal everything I had worked for. The azalea branches pressed against my back. I was frozen, squatting, my knees aching. But I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. And what about the inheritance? Megan asked, her voice eager now. That villa and those apartments. He mentioned James left him properties. We have to hurry before he changes his will. They knew. They had been listening to my calls or snooping through my papers. The violation felt worse than the plot itself. That's why we act tomorrow. Arnold's footsteps echoed in the room. Get him declared incompetent. Get the guardianship established. Get all his assets transferred. The psychiatrist knows the script. Depression, memory loss, inability to manage his finances. The judge will rubber stamp it in a week. What if someone questions it? His friends. What friends? The man is a hermit, a retired prosecutor who spends his days reading old files and watching game shows. No one is going to fight for him. The clinical assessment of my isolation hurt, because it was true. I had let my relationships fade. I had focused so hard on work for so long that retirement had left me adrift and alone, except for Megan. I thought I at least had Megan. Her voice trembled. He's still my father. He's an obstacle. Arnold's words were sharp. Final. $1,500 for the psychiatrist. Maybe another $1,000 for the lawyer to handle the guardianship. A small price to pay for a $4 million estate. Do you want to keep hiding from collectors? Do you want them coming here asking questions? Silence. Then Megan, quieter now. No, you're right. We'll do it tomorrow. I backed away from the window, one cautious step at a time. My prosecutor's mind was already kicking in, cataloging evidence, analyzing the case, elder abuse, conspiracy to commit fraud, unlawful administration of drugs. The charges stacked up neatly in my mind, a familiar organizational pattern that calmed my shaking hands. I reached my car, opened the door carefully, quietly, and slid behind the wheel. I started the engine as silently as possible and pulled away from the curb. In the rearview mirror, the house looked the same. Blue shutters, neglected lawn, the life I thought I knew. I gripped the steering wheel so hard the leather groaned. Megan's voice echoed in my head. "He's still my father." She said it like an inconvenience, not a bond. And Arnold's reply, "He's an obstacle." I drove aimlessly, just needing distance. The streets of Pasadena blurred as my mind systematically analyzed the problem. No confrontation. Not yet. Confrontation required leverage, evidence, a strategy that guaranteed victory. I had spent 35 years in a courtroom. I knew how to build a case. They wanted to declare me incompetent, drug me and lock me away while they liquidated my life. The inheritance James left me, the validation I had felt just an hour ago in Amber Foster's office, had now transformed into something else entirely. Ammunition. I needed time to think, to plan, to become what I had always been, a prosecutor, building an ironclad case against criminals who thought they were smart enough to get away with it. The afternoon sun streamed through the windshield, and I just kept driving. I drove for several blocks before I could think clearly. The betrayal kept circling in my head, their voices, their casual planning, the way Arnold had called me an obstacle. But rage wouldn't help. Rage was for amateurs. I spotted the memorial park and pulled into the small lot. The place was mostly empty on a weekday afternoon, just a few joggers and someone walking a collie. I picked a bench under an oak tree, far enough from the playground to think without distractions. For the first few minutes, I just sat with my head in my hands, letting the full weight of it hit me. My daughter, the little girl I taught to ride a bike, the one who cried on my shoulder when her first boyfriend broke her heart, the one I walked down the aisle, that same person was now planning to drug me and put me in a home. Then something clicked. The prosecutor's mind, dormant for 2 years but never truly retired, switched on like muscle memory. I sat up straight, folded my hands, and looked at the situation differently. Evidence. That's what mattered. What did I actually have? An overheard conversation. No recording. No witnesses. Any decent defense attorney would tear it apart in 5 minutes. It was hearsay, inadmissible, my word against theirs. And who sounds more credible, a devoted daughter or a bitter old man? I'd handled cases just like this. The Martinez case. 8 years ago, a son drugged his mother for power of attorney to steal her assets. We caught him because the mother's neighbor documented suspicious behavior. Physical evidence, paper trails, the Chen guardianship fraud. Similar pattern. Similar solution. You don't arrest people for planning crimes, you arrest them for committing them, which meant I needed them to act. The thought settled, cold and sharp in my chest. I needed them to proceed. I needed them to bring me to the corrupt psychiatrist. I needed them to try to drug me. I needed them to file the fraudulent paperwork. Every action would be a piece of evidence. Every step would tighten the net. I pulled out the small notebook I'd carried for decades, a habit from my casework. I wrote 4 numbered items in clear, steady script. 1. Record future conversations, voice-activated devices. 2. Document contact with the psychiatrist, photos, recordings, proof of payment. 3. Record the attempt to drug me, camera in the kitchen. Witness if possible. 4. Coordinate with police at the precise moment. California Penal Code, Section 368, Elder Abuse. PC 182, Conspiracy to commit fraud. PC 532, Obtaining property by false pretenses. I could recite the statutes from memory, along with sentencing guidelines. 3 to 4 years in state prison. Restitution, a permanent felony record. The afternoon sun slanted through the oak branches, making patterns on my notebook. I checked my watch. I'd been gone from the house for an hour. They probably thought I was running errands. Maybe picking up dinner like I usually do on Fridays. Good. Let them feel secure. I scrolled through my contacts and found Stanley Morrison's number. Stanley and I had worked together for 15 years in the DA's office before he went into private defense. A smart, trusted lawyer. More importantly, he knew elder fraud cases inside and out. We'd prosecuted dozens together. The phone rang twice. Stanley Morrison. Stanley, it's Thaddeus Brooks. I need your legal advice on a criminal matter. When can we meet? His tone shifted immediately. Tad? Everything okay? You sound. Obtaining property by false pretenses. I could recite the statutes from memory, along with sentencing guidelines. 3 to 4 years in state prison. Restitution. A permanent felony record. The afternoon sun slanted through the oak branches, making patterns on my notebook. I checked my watch. I'd been gone from the house for an hour. They probably thought I was running errands. Maybe picking up dinner like I usually do on Fridays. Good. Let them feel secure. Similar solution. You don't arrest people for planning crimes. You arrest them for committing them, which meant I needed them to act. The thought settled, cold and sharp in my chest. I needed them to proceed. I needed them to bring me to the corrupt psychiatrist. I needed them to try to drug me. I needed them to file the fraudulent paperwork. Every action would be a piece of evidence. Every step would tighten the net. I pulled out the small notebook I'd carried for decades. I need recording devices and a contact in the Pasadena PD fraud division. I've got voice-activated recorders in my office. Small, undetectable. Stanley's voice was already professional. The same tone he used when we planned case strategies. And I know exactly who you need at PPD. Detective Daniela Chen. She worked with us on those Riverside guardianship cases. She's sharp, thorough. I'll call her. Good, I'm on my way. I walked back to my car, the notebook still in my hand. But obstacles don't just disappear. Sometimes they become walls you can't climb. Sometimes they become traps you don't see until it's too late. I pulled out of the lot and headed toward Colorado Boulevard, where Stanley's office was waiting. I arrived in 20 minutes. The building was simple but professional. Beige stucco with tinted windows reflecting the late afternoon light. His office was on the 3rd floor, through a lobby that smelled like air conditioning and carpet cleaner. Stanley met me at his office door. He looked just as I remembered. Medium build, dark hair graying at the temples. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, a sign he'd been working. But his expression held something new, worry, mixed with the sharp focus I recognized from trial prep. Sit, talk. He pointed to a leather chair in front of his desk and shut the door. Start at the beginning. I told him everything. The call about the inheritance, the drive home, the open window. The park seemed surreal. Kids laughing on the swings, couples walking hand in hand. Everyday life just continuing, while mine fractured. But fractures could be set. Bones could heal stronger. I got behind the wheel and started the engine. The drive to Stanley's office would be 20 minutes with light traffic. 20 minutes to prepare my explanation, organize the facts, and turn a family tragedy into a prosecutable case. They had called me an obstacle. Fine. Obtaining property by false pretenses. PC 368. Elder abuse with intent to defraud. We're talking 3 to 4 years state prison for each count. Could be consecutive if the DA decides to play hardball, which, given the circumstances, they absolutely will. I leaned forward, but I need evidence. Hard. Admissible evidence. Exactly. Stanley stood, went to a file cabinet, and opened a drawer. Voice-activated recorders. I use them in client meetings when I need backup documentation. The overheard conspiracy. Every word Arnold had said. Every weak objection Megan had offered. Stanley listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. Another habit from our DA days. When I finished, he put his pen down and exhaled slowly. Your own daughter. That's... He stopped himself. Switch tracks. Okay. First, the legal framework. In California, what they are planning breaks multiple laws. PC 182, conspiracy to commit fraud. PC 532, They'll pick up everything within 15 feet. Crystal clear audio, time-stamped files you can download to any computer. I turned one over in my palm, surprisingly light. And the psychiatrist? You mentioned paying him $1,500 cash. That's bribery of a medical professional, possible medical fraud. If you can get a picture of the exchange, record your conversation with him. That's irrefutable. Stanley pulled out his phone. I'm calling Detective Chen now. She needs to hear this from you. Understand the timeline. He dialed the number and put it on speaker. 3 rings, then a woman's voice. Crisp and professional. Chen, Fraud Division. Daniela. It's Stanley Morrison. I have Thaddeus Brooks in my office. Yes, former ADA Brooks. He's the victim of an active elder fraud conspiracy. We need your help. I'm looping you in, Mr. Brooks. Her tone shifted. Respectful. I remember your work. What's the situation? I laid out the conspiracy again. More concisely this time. Chen asked sharp questions. Timeline. Specific threats. Available evidence. Resources of the perpetrators. A good detective. Thorough. No wasted time. Here's how we'll proceed, she said finally. You will gather recordings of their conversations discussing the plan. You will document any contact with medical professionals. If they attempt to drug you, that is aggravated assault. You will call 911 immediately. I will have a patrol unit on alert in your area starting tomorrow morning. As soon as we have conclusive evidence, we move. And the psychiatrist? I asked. If they are meeting him tomorrow, I'll run a background check tonight. See if any local psychiatrists have complaints or prior investigations. If we can ID him before the meeting, it helps. But Mr. Brooks, she paused. You are walking into a dangerous situation. These are people who have already planned to drug you. Do not underestimate them. I spent 35 years prosecuting criminals, I said quietly. I won't underestimate them, but they have already underestimated me. We ended the call. Stanley walked to the small office fridge, pulled out 2 water bottles, and handed one to me. The gesture felt absurdly normal, like we were colleagues chatting, not preparing to take down my family. You have to act completely natural when you go back home, he said. They cannot suspect you know anything. Can you do that? I thought about the thousands of witnesses I had prepped, the defendants I had watched lie under oath, the performances I had evaluated in every courtroom. I can do it. Good. He gave me a business card. My cell is on there. If anything feels wrong, if the situation escalates, you call immediately. I don't care if it's midnight. I put the recorders in my pocket, tucked the card in my wallet, and shook Stanley's hand, a firm grip, the kind that meant partnership, not just professional courtesy. The elevator ride down felt endless through the lobby windows. I saw night falling over Pasadena, the streetlights just beginning to glow. Somewhere in this city, my daughter and her husband were probably making dinner in my kitchen, finalizing their plan, counting my money before they had even stolen it. I got to my car and sat behind the wheel without starting the engine. The recorders pressed against my chest, small and hard, tools of truth, instruments of justice. Tomorrow, I would walk back into my home and pretend nothing had changed. I would smile at Megan. I would tolerate Arnold. I would have coffee and breakfast, while they watched me for signs of weakness. They wanted a confused old man? I would give them an Oscar-worthy performance. Then I would watch them destroy themselves, one recorded word at a time. I started the engine and headed home. I arrived just at dusk, as the sky turned from orange to purple. The drive was about 20 minutes, long enough to arrange my face into something approaching normal before getting out of the car. I checked the rearview mirror, practicing the smile of a man with good news to share. The recorder was taped to my chest, a hidden truth under a layer of false calm. The front door opened before I could get my keys. Megan stood there, her face instantly morphing into one of concerned daughter. Dad, you've been gone so long, we were getting worried. You didn't answer your phone. Her voice was a pitch higher than usual, a sign of stress. Where were you? Are you okay? You look tired. I let her hug me. feeling the tension in her shoulders, the way her arms barely squeezed before letting go. Arnold appeared behind her, rising from the sofa with a look of feigned concern. I just went for a long drive after seeing Stanley. Needed to clear my head, thinking about James, funeral arrangements, all of it. I walked past them into the living room. Casual. Sorry I didn't call. I didn't mean to worry you. Stanley Morrison. That's the lawyer, right? Arnold's question was too quick. What kind of cases were you talking about? Anything we should know? They were testing me, probing for suspicion, ancient history, mostly. Cases we worked on together, people we knew from the DA's office, just old men reminiscing. I smiled, letting the smile reach my eyes. Years of witness prep had taught me how to build a believable lie. He's doing well, asked about you two. Megan relaxed, visibly. Arnold's shoulders dropped an inch. They believed me. I made chicken, Megan said. We ate earlier, around 6, but there's plenty left. You must be starving. The dining table was set for 3. They had been waiting for me, probably worried I'd discovered something. Gone to the police. I sat in my usual chair, accepted the plate Megan brought, and waited until we were all eating. Then I dropped the bait. I actually have some incredible news. James left me his entire estate, a villa in Malibu and 2 apartments in Santa Monica. I paused, watching them. The notary estimates it's worth close to $5 million. Can you believe it? $5 million. The real value was $4.2 million. But inflation served a purpose. It would make them reckless, make them urgent. Arnold's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. Megan inhaled, audibly. Under the table, their hands met. I saw the movement, the silent communication passing between them. Dad, that's incredible. Megan's voice shook. $5 million, James was. So good to you. To us, I corrected gently. You're my daughter. This changes everything for all of us. I let hope color my tone, played the part of the generous father. Maybe you two can finally get back on your feet. Maybe one of those Santa Monica condos can be yours. Arnold's pupils dilated. Greed, naked and unmistakable. That's so generous. Thaddeus, so generous. We appreciate everything you've done for us these past few months. Past tense, as if I were already gone. After dinner, Megan cleared the plates while Arnold and I moved to the living room. I settled into my recliner. I picked up yesterday's newspaper as a prop. A natural movement took me past the bookshelf, where I'd left the first recorder in my pocket. My hand brushed the spine of a law dictionary. Fingers found the small device behind it. One press, silent activation, 2 seconds, that felt like nothing. I opened the paper, pretending to read. Arnold moved to the window. He pulled out his phone. He dialed. His voice was low, but the recorder would pick up everything within 15 feet. Dr. Martinez. Arnold Watson. Yes. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. is confirmed. My father-in-law. You'll be evaluating him for competency issues. Provide us with the documentation we need. $1,500 cash, as we agreed. Don't worry, he won't suspect a thing. Trusting old man, every word, recorded. Hard evidence. Conspiracy to commit fraud. Bribery of a medical professional. Elder abuse. The charges stacked up neatly, trial ready. Arnold put his phone back in his pocket, walked back to the couch. Everything okay with your friend? I asked. My eyes stayed on the newspaper. Just a business matter, nothing important. He smiled. Tomorrow is going to be a good day. Thaddeus. A really good day. Megan returned from the kitchen. She was drying her hands on a dish towel. Dad, I was thinking, I should take you for a checkup tomorrow. Just a routine thing. You're at that age where regular checkups are important. She tried to sound casual. It didn't work. I already made an appointment for mid-morning. Oh? I didn't think. I folded the paper. Set it aside. What time? 10 o'clock. Not too early. You can sleep in a bit. That sounds perfect. I stood up, stretched. I think I'll turn in early. It's been a long day, an emotional day, Of course. Dad. Megan hugged me again. We are so happy for you. About the inheritance. About everything. I hugged her back briefly. This stranger, wearing my daughter's face. I'm happy too. Sweetheart. Things are finally looking up. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Arnold and Megan exchange a look. Smug. Assumed victory. I walked upstairs to my room, my movements slow, reflecting exhaustion behind me. Their voices dropped to whispers, too low for me to hear clearly, but the recorder would catch it. I went into my room, shut the door, and waited. The night wore on. The tension was thick under the normal conversation. I could hear them downstairs, moving around the house, their voices rising just enough for me to catch snippets. My door remained slightly open, believable for a man with nothing to hide. Around 9, I heard footsteps on the stairs. A soft knock on the door. Dad? I brought you some chamomile tea. Your favorite. Megan's voice. Practice sweetness. Drink it while it's hot, it'll help you sleep. I opened the door. I took the mug from her hands. Steam rose from the surface, and just beneath it, a slight cloudiness that wasn't pure chamomile. You are so thoughtful. I smiled at her. This woman, who called me Dad. Thank you, sweetheart. Sleep well. She squeezed my arm, turned away. I closed the door. I locked it, silently. I set the mug on my nightstand, while I pulled the empty water bottle from my closet. I'd bought it yesterday, kept it clean just for this. I poured half the tea into the bottle, sealed it tight, physical evidence, chain of custody, preserved. The rest of the tea went down the bathroom sink, silently. I then refilled the mug halfway with tap water, swirled it to match the original level. The chamomile residue stained it, making it look untouched. Now, it was time for my performance. I opened the door again. I walked downstairs, holding the empty mug. Megan was sitting on the sofa. Arnold was beside her. Both of them, watching TV with a fake calm. It was perfect. I set the mug on the coffee table. I'm already feeling sleepy. I let myself sway. Just a little. I grabbed the back of the recliner. Ugh, I'm really tired. Here, Dad, let me help you. Megan jumped up, taking my arm. Her expression was a mix of concern and calculation. Come on, I'll get you to bed. I leaned on her, playing up the sedation. I slurred my words. Just slightly. That's weird. Suddenly, so tired. Must have been the emotional day. The news about the inheritance. Everything. She guided me toward the stairs. Arnold appeared on my other side. Together, they helped me up. Their hands gripped my arms. Firmly. Escorts. Or captors? The line had blurred. In my room, I let myself fall onto the bed, fully clothed. I closed my eyes, breathed deeply, slowly, faking the first signs of a drug-induced stupor. Is he asleep? Arnold's whisper. Clear. Give it a few more minutes. Megan's reply. The dose should take full effect in 30 minutes. He'll be completely unconscious for at least 8 hours. They left, pulled the door almost shut. Their footsteps receded downstairs. I waited. I counted to 300. Then I got up silently. I went to my closet and pulled the second recorder from my jacket pocket. My phone connected to it via Bluetooth. Technology that would have seemed like science fiction when I started as a prosecutor. Now, just another tool. The app activated the device I had planted downstairs. Their voices came through my earbuds. Crystal clear. I can't believe he just drank it. Megan, a nervous laugh in her voice. I told you he wouldn't suspect a thing. Naive, trusting old man. Arnold, cocky, dismissive. Tomorrow morning, we wake him up at 9. We get him dressed. We take him to Martinez's office. 1 evaluation. 1,500 cash. And we have documentation proving he's mentally unfit. And then we file for emergency guardianship. My lawyer says, with the medical evidence, we can get it in 72 hours. Once this is done, we will have absolute control. His bank accounts, the inheritance, everything. What if he objects? On what grounds? Once Martinez signs those papers, your father is legally incompetent. His word is worthless. We sell the Malibu property immediately. 5 million. There are cash buyers waiting. Split it, pay off our debts. Disappear if we have to. Our debts are almost 300,000. Arnold, the casino, they'll pay us. And then we'll be free. New start, new life. His voice hardened. Your father was useful when we needed a place to stay. Now, he's more useful as an income source. That's the reality. He's still my father. A weak protest. More ritual than resistance. He's a means to an end. Don't get sentimental now. We're too far in. Silence. Then Megan, you're right, we have to. We deserve this. After everything. I sat in the darkness, recording every word. Each sentence, another nail in their legal coffin. Conspiracy to commit fraud, elder abuse, attempted drugging, filing false medical documents. The charges multiplied. My phone vibrated. A text from Stanley. How's it going? I typed quickly. Evidence gathered. Subject attempted drugging. Physical sample preserved. Full confession being recorded now. Appointment tomorrow, 10 a.m. at Dr. Martinez's office. Need the address. Detective Chen advises. His reply was immediate. Already sending the audio files to Chen. We'll have the address tomorrow morning. DA will be ready. Be safe. I sent him the audio files. Encrypted email. Prosecutor habits. They never die. Subject? Evidence. Elder fraud. Conspiracy. Recipients. Stanley Morrison. Detective Daniela Chen. Downstairs. Arnold's voice continued. Piped into my earbuds. The guardianship gives us power of attorney. We make all medical decisions, all financial decisions, if he becomes a problem. There are facilities, long-term places where no one asks questions. They were sealing their own fate, one word at a time. 35 years prosecuting criminals had taught me. You just need to give them enough rope. Now, I had it. I sat fully dressed, in the dark, phone in my hand. The night was complete outside my window. Hours until dawn. Hours until they tried to take me to their corrupt psychiatrist. Hours until they found out what happens when you corner a prosecutor in his own home. Nightfall. The house was silent, except for the TV downstairs. Canned laughter from some sitcom. Commercials for products I would never buy. I sat in the dark, listening to them settle in for their quiet evening, believing I was drugged and unconscious upstairs. I waited until the sounds were deeper, steadier. Then, I carefully opened my bedroom door and walked down the hallway in my socks. The third stair creaked. I remembered that from years of late-night kitchen visits. I skipped it, staying close to the wall where the boards were firm, through the archway to the living room. I could see the TV's glow, their silhouettes on the couch. The back door opened silently. I had oiled the hinges 3 months ago. My office was at the back of the property. A converted garage, partly hidden by oak trees. I had used it occasionally during my prosecutor days. A secure place for sensitive files, a place to work when the house felt too small. Megan had been in it once or twice as a child. She wouldn't remember it. Arnold had never had a reason to know it existed. I unlocked the door and flipped on the lights. The place smelled like old paper and dust. One wall was lined with file cabinets. My old desk sat in the center. A small window looked out toward the driveway. I arranged the chairs, placed the bottle of tea under the desk lamp, like evidence at a crime scene, and pulled out my phone. I texted Stanley in the office. When you arrive, come to the back. Detached building. Door will be unlocked. His reply was instant. 20 minutes. While I waited, I got organized. The recordings on my phone, queued up and ready. The bottle, positioned. My old legal pad, with notes on the timeline. The charges. The chain of custody for the evidence. Muscle memory from decades of case prep. Headlights swept the driveway. Stanley got out, carrying a laptop and a legal pad. The tools of our trade. He walked in, took in the familiar surroundings, and set his materials on the desk. "Play it," he said simply. I started with Arnold's call to Dr. Martinez. Stanley's expression hardened as Arnold's voice filled the small office. 10 a.m. Confirmed. My father-in-law. You'll evaluate him for competency. Provide the documentation we need. $1,500 cash, as we agreed. Then, the post-drugging conversation. Every word of their plan laid bare. The guardianship scheme, the property seizure, their cold-blooded assessment of me as an obstacle and a resource. Stanley opened his laptop, pulling up the California Penal Code. His fingers moved fast on the keyboard. PC 182, conspiracy to commit fraud. The attempted drugging, that's PC 347, administering a controlled substance to facilitate a felony. And the psychiatrist bribery is PC 67. 5. He looked up, meeting my eyes. Tad, they are looking at a minimum of 3 to 4 years. Each. Good. The word came out flat, devoid of emotion. 35 years as a prosecutor had taught me to separate the law from the feeling. This was just a consequence of an action. More lights. Detective Daniela Chen's unmarked sedan pulled up. 2 uniformed officers were with her. She walked in briskly, badge clipped to her belt, field test kit in hand. "Mr. Brooks." She shook my hand. Firm grip, professional respect. "I reviewed the audio files you sent. Now I need to see the physical evidence." I handed her the bottle. She held it up to the light, examining the slight cloudiness, then opened her kit. A small glass vial, drops of reagent. A test strip. She added liquid from the bottle. Watched the chemical reaction. A deep purple-blue color bloomed instantly. Zolpidem, prescription sedative. She photographed the result with her phone. Time and date noted in a small notebook. That's PC 347. Administering a drug to facilitate a felony. Possession with intent to incapacitate. Stanley leaned forward. "Daniela, your recommendation on timing?" Chen put the bottle down and crossed her arms. Her expression was pure business. "We have enough to issue arrest warrants right now. Conspiracy. Attempted drugging. The recordings are sufficient probable cause." She paused, looking at Stanley, then at me. "But I recommend we let them go to the doctor's office tomorrow. Let them hand over the money. Let them accept the fraudulent documents. Then we arrest all 3. Your daughter, her husband, and Dr. Martinez. We catch them in the act. No defense attorney can argue they changed their minds or were just talking." Stanley nodded slowly. "From a prosecution standpoint, Daniela is right. Catching them with the cash in hand, receiving falsified medical documents, it's indisputable. It's an act, not just words." I understood the strategy immediately. Maximum charges, minimum room for a defense, all elements of the crime completed before intervention. Tomorrow morning, when Megan wakes me up, I'll play along. I'll go with them to the doctor's office. I looked at Chen. "Will you be following us? My team will set up surveillance on your house at 0600 hours when you leave with them. We will follow. At a distance. You will never be at risk. We will be close." Her voice was absolutely certain. "As soon as they complete the transaction with Martinez, we move in." "And where is Martinez?" Stanley asked. "We don't have the address. We'll follow them there," Chen replied. "It's better for us anyway. It shows their willingness to commit the crime without coercion. It also protects Mr. Brooks's position. If we had arrested Martinez beforehand, they might have gotten suspicious." She pulled out a tactical radio, spoke briefly to the officers waiting by the door. They nodded and stepped outside. From the window, I watched them walk the perimeter, assessing angles and cover points. "Surveillance positions set by dawn," Chen continued. "Unmarked cars. Plainclothes. You won't see us, but we will be watching every exit. When do you expect them to wake you?" Megan said the appointment was mid-morning, probably around 9, to give me time to get dressed and ready. "Perfect. That gives us 3 hours of daylight surveillance before any movement. She made notes on her phone. Mr. Brooks, tomorrow will be difficult. You will have to maintain the performance. I understand. I felt the weight of it. One more act, one final deception, before the curtain fell. Stanley closed his laptop. I'll have the emergency restraining orders ready to file the moment they are in custody. Asset protection, injunctions against any property transfer. Your inheritance will be secure. Chen packed up her test kit, sealing the tea bottle in an evidence bag. We're clear at 0600. Stay in your room tonight. Maintain the charade. When she wakes you, you are groggy, compliant, trusting. Can you do that? I thought of decades of witnesses I had prepped, performances I had evaluated, lies I had dismantled on cross-examination. I can do it. They left together, their taillights disappearing down the driveway. I locked the office and walked across the dark lawn, back to my house. The TV was still on inside. They hadn't moved, hadn't suspected a thing. I slipped back in the rear door, went up the stairs, avoiding the third-step creak. In my room, I sat on the edge of the bed and checked my phone. It was approaching midnight. Hours until dawn. Hours until Megan would knock on my door, with fake concern and real malice. Everything was set. Now, I just had to wait. The planning session went on past midnight. Chen laid out the tactical positions. 2 unmarked patrol cars on adjacent streets. 1 foot patrol officer near the property line. Radio protocols for silent communication. Stanley went over the legal documents he had prepared. I started with Arnold's call to Dr. Martinez. Stanley's expression hardened as Arnold's voice filled the small office. 10 a.m. Confirmed. My father-in-law. You'll evaluate him for competency. Provide the documentation we need. $1,500 cash, as we agreed. Then, the post-drugging conversation. Every word of their plan laid bare. The guardianship scheme, the property seizure, their cold-blooded assessment of me as an obstacle and a resource. Stanley opened his laptop. We'll process them separately. Standard interrogation technique. Let them wonder what the other one is saying. The recordings give us the leverage. Most suspects fold when they hear their own voice. I listened. I asked technical questions. I took notes. But underneath the professional conversation, something else was churning. These were preparations for my daughter's arrest, for watching her be handcuffed, read her rights, taken away in a patrol car. The thought should have shattered me. Maybe it would have, before I heard her voice, talking about nursing homes and asset seizures, as if I were already dead. We're set, Chen said finally, standing up. 0600. My team is in position. You maintain your character until we give the signal. Once they are in custody, you're clear. I shook both their hands. Stanley's handshake lingered. His eyes searched mine, looking for signs of a break. He wouldn't find one. Not yet. They left through the back office door. Engines started, quietly in the night. I watched their lights fade, then walked across the lawn one last time. The grass was wet with late-night dew, soaking my socks. A small detail, an everyday sensation. I registered it, anyway. This ordinary moment in an extraordinary night. Inside, the TV was off. The house was dark, silent. They had gone to bed, satisfied with their progress, dreaming of Malibu villas and Santa Monica condos they would never touch. I went upstairs, back to my room, and locked the door. Then, I sat on the edge of the bed, and I let myself feel it. Megan, my daughter, the little girl who scraped her knee learning to ride her bike, who brought me terrible drawings that I hung on the fridge, who cried in my arms when her mother left. Somewhere between that little girl and this woman, something had broken. Or maybe it was never whole. I pulled up a photo on my phone. Megan at 8 years old, gap-toothed smile, my arm around her shoulders at a park. We looked happy. Maybe we were, in that one. Frozen instant. Maybe it was always a performance. Even then, the grief came, sharp and sudden. I let it land. I let it cut. Then, deliberately, I pushed it away. Tomorrow required focus. Tomorrow required the prosecutor, not the father. The law didn't care about broken hearts. It cared about evidence and consequences. I checked my phone. 12:47 a.m. A text from Stanley. Try to get some rest. You'll need it. A follow-up from Chen. Team briefed. Positions confirmed for 0600. You are not alone in this. But I was. That was the truth. Under all the tactical planning and legal frameworks, my family had become my adversary. My home had become a crime scene. The people who were supposed to protect me had conspired to destroy me. I was 67 years old, sitting in the dark, preparing to watch my daughter be arrested. The loneliness was absolute. I lay back on the bed, still fully clothed, my phone resting on my chest. Sleep wouldn't come. I knew that. Instead, I rehearsed tomorrow's performance. Step by step, the groggy wake-up, the confused but compliant, agreement, the trust, because that's what they expected. The old man who drinks the drugged tea and follows instructions. Outside my window, the neighborhood was silent. Streetlights cast shadows on the ceiling. Somewhere, Chen's surveillance team would be arriving in a few hours. Stanley would be awake too, reviewing his documents, making sure every legal protection was ironclad. And here, in this room, where I had lived alone for 2 years of retirement, where I had imagined my remaining years would be peaceful, I waited for the dawn and the final confrontation. My phone screen glowed in the dark. 1:32 a.m., then 1:45 a.m., 2 a.m. Time was moving with deliberate cruelty. Each minute, an eternity. I thought about James, my brother, who left me millions, and a note. For the brother who always did the right thing, he knew, doing the right thing, even when it hurt, even when it cost you. This was the right thing. I knew it, with a prosecutor's certainty. They had planned elder abuse, conspiracy, fraud. They had drugged me, or tried. They had spoken of nursing homes and asset seizures with a casual cruelty. The law demanded consequences. Justice demanded a response. But knowing it was right didn't make it easy. 3:15 a.m., 3:48 a.m., 4:21 a.m. The blackness outside slowly, started to turn gray. Not dawn yet, just the first hint that the night couldn't last forever, somewhere in the house. Megan and Arnold slept, soundly, convinced their plan was unfolding perfectly, unaware that justice, like the sunrise, was inevitable. I lay still, phone in my hand, and waited. The longest night of my life was crawling to its end. Soon, Chen's team would be in position. Soon, Megan would knock on my door. Soon, the final act would begin. But for now, in these last few hours of darkness, I just existed in the space between what was and what was about to be. A father, preparing to turn in his daughter. A victim, setting a trap for his attackers. A prosecutor, making sure the law reached everyone, even his own. My phone screen read 4:53 a.m. The dawn was coming. At last, the morning light came through my window. After the longest night, I watched the black fade to gray, and the gray turned to dawn. 6 a.m. came and went. Chen's surveillance team, in position, invisible, around my home. Around 8:30 a.m., I heard footsteps approaching my door, a soft knock. "Dad, time to wake up," Megan's voice. Forced cheerfulness. "I scheduled that doctor's appointment for you, 10 o'clock. Remember? You said yesterday you wanted to get your blood pressure checked." I had been sitting on the edge of the bed for hours, but I lay back down, mussed my hair. Like a man waking from a deep, drugged sleep. When she opened the door, I blinked slowly, put a hand to my head. I Scheduled an appointment? My voice was gravelly, confused. I don't remember saying that. My memory. I let the sentence hang, looked at her with uncertainty. I must be getting old. But if you set it up, we should go. You're taking care of me. Her face lit up with relief. She bought it. She believed I was still groggy. From the tea. Compliant. Manageable. That's right, Dad. Just a routine checkup. Get dressed and come down for some breakfast. I moved slowly, getting ready. Fumbled with the buttons. Took twice as long as necessary. Every motion calculated to reinforce their confidence. When I came downstairs, Arnold was in the kitchen, a smile on his face that didn't reach his eyes. Morning, Thaddeus. Coffee's ready. I made toast. He pulled out a chair for me with exaggerated care. That inheritance. 5 million. We should celebrate properly. After the doctor gives you a clean bill of health, let's go somewhere nice. My treat. We're family. After all, the irony was so thick, it was suffocating. Family. That word used to mean something. That sounds nice, I said, accepting the coffee cup with a slightly trembling hand. Another calculated move. Very nice. We ate quickly, all of us performing. Megan, touching my arm with fake tenderness. Arnold, talking about restaurants and celebration plans. I played along, grateful, trusting, a little confused. The prosecutor inside me cataloged every detail. The father inside me died a little more with every lie. We left the house just before 10. Arnold insisted I sit in the back. It's more comfortable for you, he drove. Control, always control. I didn't argue. I just settled into the leather seat and watched the window. The drive was 35 minutes, through neighborhoods that got progressively worse. The tree-lined streets of Pasadena gave way to strip malls, then to industrial areas, and finally to old buildings with cracked facades and barred windows. This wasn't where real doctors practiced. This is where desperate people came, for procedures they couldn't get legally. At a stoplight, I checked the rearview mirror. A gray sedan, 3 cars back. Detective Chen. A wave of relief washed over me. Silent, invisible backup. My lifeline. We arrived at a rundown building just after 10:15. The sign said medical offices, but half the letters were burnt out. Arnold parked and helped me out of the car with exaggerated concern. We went up a narrow flight of stairs to the second floor, through a door that said Martinez Medical. The waiting room had old magazines and worn-out furniture. No receptionist, no other patients. Martinez appeared almost immediately. A nervous-looking man in his 50s, wearing a doctor's coat over street clothes. His eyes darted to Arnold, then to me, then away. Mr. Brooks, please, come in. His voice trembled slightly. I am Dr. Martinez. Your daughter tells me you've been having some memory issues. Let's do a quick evaluation. Nothing to worry about. I walked slowly into his office. Let Megan guide me to a chair. Martinez pulled out a file and started asking basic questions. The date, the location, simple math problems. I answered slowly, with hesitation, looking to Megan for confirmation sometimes. She squeezed my shoulder, playing the part of the devoted daughter, while I played the part of the confused old man. 15 minutes. That's all his thorough evaluation took. Then he put the clipboard down and turned to Megan and Arnold. His expression was one of practiced concern. Mrs. Watson, Mr. Watson, I need to talk to you about your father's condition. He avoided looking at me directly. He is showing clear signs of cognitive decline, memory lapses, confusion, difficulty with complex reasoning. In my professional opinion, he requires supervised care. I recommend you seek legal guardianship immediately. Arnold leaned forward, eagerly. We appreciate your thoroughness. Doctor, we were so worried about him living alone, managing his finances, with his recent inheritance, a considerable estate. We have to make sure he's taken care of. He reached into his jacket pocket. You'll provide us with the documentation we need? Martinez nodded, pulling pre-printed forms from his desk drawer. The capacity evaluation, the recommendation for guardianship, the medical justification, everything you'll need for the court. Arnold's smile widened. He pulled a white envelope from his jacket. I knew it held $1,500 in cash. The payment for the fraud, the payment for selling his medical ethics, the payment for helping to destroy an old man's autonomy. As we discussed, Arnold said, holding it out. Martinez reached for it, his fingers inches away from the exchange. This was it. The crime. Completed. All elements. Present. Conspiracy. Fraud. Bribery. Elder abuse. All recorded. All documented. All ready for prosecution. I touched my own jacket pocket, feeling the weight of my phone. Chen was outside. Stanley would be nearby. Justice was seconds away. Arnold's fingers let go of the envelope. Martinez's hand closed around it. The transaction was complete. The door burst open. Police. Don't move. Detective Chen came in first. Badge raised. 2 uniformed officers behind her. Martinez dropped the envelope like it was on fire. Cash scattered on the floor. Visible. Quantifiable. Irrefutable proof. Hands where I can see them. Chen's voice had absolute authority. Hands up! All of you! Arnold shot to his feet, his face white. What is this? We're at a doctor's appointment. You are under arrest. Chen moved toward him. Cuffs out. Arnold Watson, you are being charged with conspiracy to commit elder fraud, attempted administration of a controlled substance, and bribery of a medical professional. Turn around. This is insane. Arnold's voice was high-pitched. We didn't do anything. Tell them. Martinez. Tell them this is legitimate. But Martinez had his hands in the air, his eyes wide with panic. I want a lawyer. I'm not saying anything. I need a lawyer, right now. Megan turned to me, her face crumbling. Dad? Dad? What's happening? Why are the police here? I stood up slowly, my role as the confused old man, dropping away like a discarded costume. When I spoke, my voice had the weight of 35 years as a prosecutor. I heard you, Megan, through the window, yesterday afternoon. I heard everything. The color drained from her face. You? What? The nursing home? The drugged coffee? The bought and paid for psychiatrist, your husband, talking about me like I was already dead. I kept my voice calm, factual. I heard every word, and I recorded it all. No! She was shaking her head, frantically. No! Dad, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You conspired to have me declared incompetent, to drug me, to seize my assets through a fraudulent guardianship, and to lock me in a facility where no one would listen to me. I pulled out my phone and held it up. California Penal Code 368. Elder Abuse. PC 182. Conspiracy. PC 347. Administering drugs to commit a felony. You are facing a minimum of 3 to 4 years in prison. Arnold lunged for the door. An officer intercepted him, pinning him to the wall. Assault on an officer? That's another charge. Chen finished cuffing Arnold and moved to Megan. Megan Brooks Watson, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit elder fraud and attempted administration of a controlled substance. Dad, please. Megan's voice broke. I'm your daughter. You can't do this to me. You did this to yourself. The words came out cold, final. You chose this when you decided I was an obstacle instead of a person, when you put a sedative in my tea, when you planned to lock me away and steal everything I have. Chen read them their rights as the officers secured Martinez, the medical forms, the cash on the floor, the clipboard with the fake notes, all of it, collected as evidence. Through the office window, I saw more patrol cars, crime scene techs arriving. Stanley appeared in the doorway. He had legal folders under his arm. Our eyes met, a shared moment of professional satisfaction. Cases like this. Hard evidence, Clear charges. Perpetrators. Caught red-handed. These were the cases that restored your faith in the system. Assets are frozen, Stanley told me, his voice low. Emergency protective orders are filed. Your will has been amended. Megan has been removed as a beneficiary. Everything is secure. They led Megan and Arnold out in separate patrol cars. Through the window, I watched my daughter, in handcuffs, crying, as she was read her rights, in a parking lot, in the worst part of Los Angeles. She looked up at me one last time, searching my face, maybe hoping I would save her. I looked away. Detective Chen drove me to the station to give my official statement. 3 hours of testimony, documenting everything. The overheard conversation, the recordings, the drug tea, the fraudulent medical appointment. The court reporter's fingers flew, capturing every word, the factual chain of custody preserved. They'll be arraigned on Monday morning, Chen told me when we were finished. Bail will be high, given the charges. Your restraining order prohibits any contact. They can't call you. They can't come near you. They can't ask you for help. Good. The word felt small, but true. Stanley walked me to my car in the station lot. You did the right thing. Tad, you know that, right? I know. I gripped my keys, looking at the setting sun. That doesn't make it feel good. It's not supposed to feel good. It's just supposed to be right. The drive home took 40 minutes. Traffic, weekend shoppers, ordinary people, living ordinary lives. I pulled into my driveway. I walked into my house. It was empty now. Completely empty. No daughter cooking. No son-in-law watching TV. Just silence. And the ghosts of what might have been. I sat at the kitchen table, and I made the necessary calls. First, to Amber Foster, the notary. The will needs an immediate revision. Megan Brooks Watson is to be removed completely. I will be designating alternate beneficiaries. Second, to Stanley, if it's required. Begin divorce proceedings on her behalf. I want no legal ties left. Third, to my bank, freeze all accounts, pending the investigation. Practical steps, moving forward. The things you do when your family becomes your enemy and justice becomes a necessity. Night settled over Pasadena in the quiet of my house. I poured a glass of water, just water, nothing hidden in it, nothing dangerous, and I stood by the kitchen window, somewhere in the city. Megan was sitting in a holding cell, Arnold beside her, or separate, both of them facing reality. Martinez waiting for his arraignment. All of them learning that consequences are real, that theft has a price, that betraying trust carries a heavy sentence. I had won, the law had worked, the evidence had held. Justice was served, but the victory tasted like ash. I picked up the phone one last time. I called Amber Foster. I want to begin processing the inheritance immediately, and I need recommendations for estate planning, this time for real beneficiaries, people who won't try to kill me for it. Her voice was compassionate. I'll have everything ready for Tuesday. Mr. Brooks, I am very sorry about your daughter. Me too. I hung up. The house remained silent. Tomorrow would bring paperwork, legal proceedings, the machinery of justice, grinding on. Megan would be tried. Arnold would be tried. Martinez would lose his license and his freedom. The system would work as designed, and I would be here in this empty house with my inheritance and my vindication and the permanent absence of family. 67 years old, alone, victorious, yes, but empty. I put the phone down and just stared into the empty space, taking it all in. The betrayal, the trap, the arrests, the look on Megan's face when she realized I had known all along. Justice served, family destroyed, both truths existing at the same time, neither one canceling the other. I took a deep breath, then another. Tomorrow would come, Anyway, the legal process would continue. Life would go on, because it does. But tonight, in this silent house, I just existed, in the space between victory and loss, acknowledging both, accepting neither as complete. The prosecutor had won his case. The father had lost his daughter. Both statements were true. Both statements were final. If you like this story, give this video a like, subscribe to William's Revenge Stories, and share your thoughts in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thanks for watching.